hadn't even gotten to see the questions. Dick didn't come home and tell me. I don't know why it came down from International Falls that he had said it, but it was said. So that Thursday was a complete shock to me. I was totally amazed. Kind of chuckled.
Airport Board Vice President Al Amatuzio says board member Nancy Braun is involved in a conflict of interest because she's an employee of the company which operates the Sky Harbor Airport on Park Point.
From my personal observation of the conduct of authority business and with information I received through the city auditor's office, it is my opinion that Director Braun has actively attempted to foster and protect the operator at Sky Harbor at the expense of the authority and the general public.
You feel is proof of some impropriety, is that correct?
Yes, I do, and I feel that she should resign. I make a motion that she does.
Amatuzio's proof is this letter from November of 1982. At that time, City Councilman Richard Braun, Nancy Braun's husband, helped Northern Wings Aviation, the operator of the Sky Harbor Airport, file some revised figures after a city audit. Amatuzio says that, combined with Nancy Braun's part-time job at Northern Wings, spells a conflict of interest. And although Braun was out of town today, last Tuesday she told Channel 3 News she's not worried about possible charges. Do you feel that you're in conflict of interest?
No, I really don't. If I had voted on something in favor of Northern Wings Aviation, then I think somebody could say, yes, she has conflict of interest. I haven't voted on, on anything, and I wouldn't. That would be an abstaining vote.
She's on part-time, approximately 2 hours a day, 5 days a week.
And what exactly does she do?
Answers the phone, secretarial, some bookkeeping.
However, the man pointing the finger at Nancy Braun may have a conflict of interest himself. Al Amatuzio is the president of AMSOIL, the Superior-based synthetic oil manufacturer that supplies all of the airport's lubricants, over $2,500 worth last year. City attorneys say that's only a problem when the board member has a financial interest in the company. As president of AMSOIL, Amatuzio doesn't think he does. If Braun refuses to resign from the board when she returns to town, it will take an act of the city's administration and the city council to remove her, and no one is willing to speculate on the likelihood of that happening. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
Come from the users.
3 of 7 board members were absent, and there was barely a quorum when the issue was brought up at this morning's meeting. Airport Authority Vice President Al Amatuzio says Nancy Braun is involved in a conflict of interest because she works as a part-time bookkeeper at the city's Sky Harbor Airport on Park Point.
From my personal observation of the conduct of authority business and with information I received through the city auditor's office, it is my opinion that Director Braun has actively attempted to foster and protect the operator at Sky Harbor at the expense of the authority and the general public.
After a brief discussion, the board approved Amatuzio's motion to ask Braun to resign. Amatuzio contends that this letter from November of 1982 proves that Nancy Braun and her husband Richard are involved in the operation of Northern Wings Aviation. However, the city auditor's office says no such connection is made in the letter. It's merely a response to a routine audit. Nancy Braun is out of town and can't be reached for comment today, but on Tuesday she told Channel 3 News that she wasn't concerned about conflict of interest charges. Okay, do you feel that you're in conflict of interest?
No, I really don't. If I had voted on something in favor of Northern Wings Aviation, then I think somebody could say, yes, she has conflict of interest. I haven't voted on, on anything, and I wouldn't. That would be an abstaining vote.
However, the man pointing his finger at Braun is the president of Superior's AMSOIL Company, the sole provider of lubricant products for Duluth Airport. And Amatuzio says he doesn't abstain from voting on cash disbursements to his company.
No, I do not abstain from that.
If Braun refuses to resign when she comes back to town, it will take an action from the city council to remove her, and no one is willing to speculate on the likelihood of that happening. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
Boating is becoming big business in Chequamegon Bay. Not just sailboating, but power boating and charter fishing as well. There are now over 1,100 boat slips all along the bay. Studies indicate that 200 additional slips would have to be built to satisfy demand in the near future.
It's increased fairly quickly. I've just been in with this business for 3 years, but we've always been pretty close to capacity.
Most of the people who come here regularly are from the Twin Cities, Twin Ports, and central Wisconsin. More, though, are also coming from downstate Wisconsin and Chicago. And the main attraction is boating to the Apostle Islands.
I think more and more people, recreation business is growing. It'd be hard to put a figure on it.
Marina business also helps other businesses in the area. The average boating party spends $85 a day, which turns over in the community about 2.5 times. The boating industry all along Chequamegon Bay is expected to grow even more in the next few years. But while the business is booming, it's also a fragile one. At 10, I'll tell you why. In Ashland, Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
The sights and sounds of Duluth's 12,000 acres of parklands are as varied as the city itself, from the subtle beauty of Chester Park to the wind blowing through Anger Tower or the waves along the north shore of Lake Superior. Each creates a special feeling. This is the sound of Lincoln Park. This is where Mayor Fido's plan to renovate the city's parks began, and for good reason.
This is where I grew up. This is where I spent a lot of time doing the same thing these kids are doing right behind us, sliding down those rocks, up back on the other end, damming it up with sandbags and swimming, and just generally using this particular park. So this one kind of started for me when I was on the city council.
The park itself lies on both sides of Miller Creek between 3rd Street and Skyline Parkway and 25th and 26th Avenues East. All told, Lincoln Park is a 35-acre oasis in the middle of one of Duluth's most active neighborhoods.
It's an area of the city with a lot of young families, a lot of young children, and the orientation here is to a lot of particular programs or equipment that that kids like to play on, like to use, like to roughhouse with. You got a softball field up on top. The playground equipment is all the type that that really kind of promotes just outright tough use.
Fido says the work that began here has paid many dividends as families around the city have begun to embrace their local parks as an important part of their neighborhood.
If there's any reward from our point of view to doing something like this is to see the community embrace these parks after they're done and kind of take it upon themselves to protect them and to care for them and to take ownership, because they do.
Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
With the sounds of music tonight, more than 75 people gather to commemorate the bombing of Hiroshima.
I think people either want to forget or don't want to deal with it, and we want to help them because we have to deal with it. And the other is to encourage people to think that there is something that they can do to empower people to reverse the present arms race.
It was a time for residents to confront the devastation and danger of a potential nuclear war. The peace and anti-nuclear groups stress the importance that children, too, learn those potential dangers.
I think it's very important because it's a history that they need to not only understand but to have in their in how they make decisions about their future.
I think whoever invented nuclear war should be shot. It's pretty bad. People die a lot, and they might get diseases and die harder in the longer way. So we shouldn't even think about nuclear war.
Tonight's commemoration ended with a candlelight vigil. Residents marched from the Duluth Library to the Civic Center, where Mayor John Fido's proclamation was read, proclaiming August 3rd through the 9th as Hiroshima and Nagasaki Commemoration Week. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
This was the Jerry and Dorothy Johnson family in the spring of 1982. A year and a half later, son Steve died unexpectedly. It was the most traumatic event in their lives. After Steve died, a nurse at Superior Memorial Hospital asked the Johnsons to donate Steve's organs for transplant.
It is something that we hadn't really talked about as a family either at that point. Since then we have a lot, but at that point we hadn't. But it just seemed like the only thing that we could do. It was something good that could come out of it.
Only Steve's corneas could be transplanted, but they were corneas which wouldn't have been used at all if the hospital staff hadn't asked for them.
Within seconds of finding out that our son had passed away, then we just made up that decision to give the organs at the same time. It just it kind of come together, and it's a very tough time for anybody, but since then it's been a good move on our part, I'm sure.
More and more families are being asked to donate organs when a family member dies. Wisconsin and 12 other states have a required request law. That law requires hospitals to make donation an option.
The law in Wisconsin came about because of a family that lost a young family member and was not approached by staff at the hospital that their loved one died. And they were very upset because they didn't have that opportunity. So they talked to one of their legislators, and that's when our law in Wisconsin was initiated.
The demand for organs is great. The number of available organs is small. That's why the Wisconsin Lions Clubs have taken such an interest in the donation issue. Lions Club members spend much of their time trying to convince people of the need to donate.
I would say 90% of the people are afraid because they do not know what it's all about. And I think this is one of the Lions Club's part is to educate the people, and I think we're slowly gaining on it, and this year I hope in our district we will gain a lot more.
The Johnsons know their decision to donate resulted in sight for people who couldn't see, so their message to you is to remember the good that can come from the bad.
Well, the main thing is for the families to talk about it together, husbands, wives, involve your children, and also to think about what good it's doing for the other people, the people that receive the organs. Or in this case, there's two people, and one that received the corneas from him, and they're both seeing now where they weren't before, and that's a marvelous thing.
From the outside, it looks like an aging office building on the Duluth waterfront. But developers say the Meyerhoff building's proximity to vital tourist spots like Canal Park and the William Irvin Orboat make it a prime location for a hotel.
And also the convention center is going to be right across the way. The things that draw people to Duluth are in this area.
Once the hotel is built, other developers are expected to jump on the bandwagon, sparking a flurry of activity on the waterfront.
I believe that this is the catalyst to get things started in this whole waterfront area.
But there's a catch. Before these men can get the financing they'll need to remodel the building, they'll need to get a $2 million federal grant. And no matter how good the building's lake view is, it can't stop shrinking federal funds and a growing number of applicants. Sources in Washington say the project will have a good shot at getting the federal dollars it needs. But nothing on Capitol Hill is certain. And developers aren't sure where they'll come up with the extra cash if the deal falls through. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
The Public Arts Commission works hard to raise money to bring physical works of art to Duluth. In this case, the work of art is a bunch of bricks. 50,000 of these will complete the bricking project here at the Civic Center courtyard. It's kind of Duluth's answer to the Hollywood stars. But in this case, for $25, you can become the star.
One person bought one that said, world's greatest father, and then their father's name on it. And we've gotten memorials, and the Priley family actually bought a brick. They were one of the first to buy a brick.
The Public Arts Commission has been going strong in its search for brick stars. Yesterday, members were at the Folk Festival, and today they were at a shopping mall, searching for people who want to leave their mark on Duluth.
Would you ever consider having your name engraved like that for $25?
Sure. I think I would.
Why?
Well, I guess it would make the Civic Center look real nice. And it would be kind of nice to walk through there and see the different names on the different bricks.
While some say they'd like to see their name on a brick, others say they'd think twice before engraving their name away.
No deal. I wouldn't want my name on a brick.
Why not?
Just don't feel like it. I think it's a waste of money putting in bricks in the first place.
Despite the fact that some people question the logic of having their name on a brick, the Public Arts Commission will continue to sell them. They'll be at art events and other activities all year until they sell 50,000 of them. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News. This is the only computerized bingo casino in the world.
This is a lot of fun.
It's different because you got a computer and a board and you're punching your numbers.
More than 3,000 people came to see what officials are calling the new revolution in bingo.
I think we've taken bingo, it's from the archaic type of way it's been played for years into a new state-of-the-art technology to play the game.
Famous odds maker Jimmy the Greek Snyder, who served as host for the grand opening, says he's putting his money on this new concept.
It had to take an awful lot of teamwork to put all this together. It's beautiful. And the concept that they've devised and what they're going to do in the future, it's going to be a big winner.
I just won a houseboat weekend I hope for 2.
Prizes are given out randomly during bingo sessions. Although the concept of computerized bingo is the same as traditional, it's really a different experience. If you're hungry or thirsty, a waitress will wait on you, and the number called will flash on your screen, so it's impossible to miss one. And unlike traditional bingo, you can play by yourself. You don't even need a caller. The computer does the calling. But if computers aren't your thing, traditional bingo is available too at Fortune Bay. At Lake Vermilion, Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News. Police removed the woman's body early this afternoon, some 12 hours after the murder. It took several hours just to obtain a search warrant for the store and the woman's residence, which is located directly behind the business. Authorities were notified of the murder about 2 o'clock this morning and now have a juvenile male in custody.
Early this morning, female clerk here in the store was apparently murdered.
Police believe the woman died due to a head wound, but autopsy results are due later this weekend. A weapon and a motive are also under investigation, and the name of the woman is being withheld until relatives are notified. Area residents say the victim was very well liked and a familiar face to most Billings Park residents.
Well, she's a nice lady. I've known her kids for almost every single one of them. Grew up with them.
Area residents are very shocked and frightened at the news, and the thought of a murder in their small community of Billings Park is alarming.
Who has that deranged in the mind? I mean, yeah. Who can do something like that? Oh, God.
Right now, the police have one individual in custody, and the murder remains under investigation. In Superior, Catherine O'Keefe, Channel 3 News.
Everyone who attended the reunion enjoyed themselves, but instead of the estimated 20,000 people who were supposed to show up, only about half came.
And since we registered only a little over 11,000 actually, the greater part of the indebtedness stems from that lack of registrations.
Reunion producer Jay Lurie says he was aware of low attendance problems about 2 months before the event started, but he was certain the sale of tickets to big acts like George Burns and the Oak Ridge Boys would bail the reunion out.
Primarily because the single tickets, at that point, in answer to your question, it was really because the single tickets didn't sell. It was our only chance.
Businesses all over town are owed a total of $320,000, and the reunion still owes an additional $138,000 in loans. Lurie says he knows he put on a good show for those who came, but why others didn't is a tough question to answer.
Marketing is a tough assignment, but we felt that we had some of the hottest attractions in America, and when you have a hot attraction, you should do better than we did.
John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
The problem started about 7 years ago. Malpractice insurance rates for obstetricians started rising, and since then they've risen over 350%. So an obstetrician in our area that was paying about $8,000 a year 7 years ago is paying close to $30,000 now.
Our premiums now are high enough that we are paying in malpractice premium for every delivery between, with the new rates, almost $100 per delivery.
But Minnesota is a conservative state when it comes to costs for medical coverage. In states such as New York or Florida, malpractice insurance runs as high as $85,000 a year. A recent survey published in this month's McCall's magazine shows that of the 616 obstetricians and gynecologists surveyed, 62% had been sued for malpractice. 46% had considered leaving the practice, and 19% had already stopped practicing the specialty because of high insurance premiums.
I think we're looking as a society to guarantees. And if we pay money, we expect we will get a guaranteed product. In the medicine, you do not get a guarantee. And so if there's a bad result, if there is a baby that is malformed, or if there's a baby who has some problems after delivery, then we look for a reason, and we tend to turn to the doctor and say the doctor or the drug company did wrong.
Mathers says he doesn't feel there's a good solution to the problem, but more strict interpretation of what exactly qualifies as malpractice may help. In the meantime, it's the patient who pays. Lisa Molosky, Channel 3 News. Trying to park one of these planes is tough enough, let alone dealing with all the buttons and gauges in the cockpit. But within a week, these 17 teenage Civil Air Patrol cadets will be on their own in the air.
I love it. I love the opportunity to be able to solo. It's going to be great.
The Minnesota Civil Air Patrol holds the school annually. There are 2 students for every certified flight instructor. All instructors volunteer their time for this week-long encampment, and although they find the program very rewarding, they say it's also nerve-wracking.
Those ulcers that we get from when we send those kids out on that first flight by themselves, it's quite a recovery thing.
The cadets selected for the school feel very fortunate and don't mind the 6 a.m. reveille or the 15 hours a day of instruction. The school costs $250, cheap compared to the sky-high rates for private lessons. Instructors try to keep the learning atmosphere relaxed. However, they do take the instruction up to the solo very seriously.
Whether they solo or not is strictly the decision of a certified flight instructor. And if one does not, if the instructor doesn't feel the cadet should solo by the end of encampment, then he just doesn't solo.
The students think it's tougher to solo than to watch, but the instructors say the hardest thing to do is to watch their students out in the wild blue yonder and hope they didn't forget to mention anything. In Grand Rapids, Catherine O'Keefe, Channel 3 News.
Flight 557 out of Chicago, American Airlines' first flight into Duluth. It means the beginning of competition between American Northwest and Republic Airlines for your business. Travelers say they're pleased with the new selection.
I think it's terrific. It's nice to have another airline to choose from.
I think it's an improvement having American Airlines here with the others. And we've flown American before, and we like them.
American is one of the world's largest airlines. It will now operate 3 flights a day between Duluth and Chicago with connecting flights to cities worldwide. Local officials point to American as a company willing to invest in a region with a somewhat uncertain future.
They looked at the spirit and enthusiasm of our community and said, it's building there, we'll come. So we're very excited about them looking at Duluth and a large national carrier saying that's a place we want to be.
American recognized that Duluth has got an awful lot to offer. You've got a lot of recreational activities here. You've got a beautiful little culture. You've got a wonderful downtown area. And this is I think a very good choice.
Some officials speculate the addition of one more airline may only be the beginning of door opening for other major airlines here in Duluth. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
You'll start seeing ads for the new Fond du Luth Gaming Casino in a couple of weeks. The main theme, Las Vegas excitement, lights up Duluth. Indeed it will. Neon lights and beveled mirrors are being installed in and on the old Sears building in downtown Duluth to create an image that promoters say will be hard to find in other bingo operations.
This is really a casino. It's just like a small version of Caesar's Palace. All the glitz and glitter and glamour and excitement that you see in those facilities you see in the Fond du Luth Gaming Casino.
Klatsky's advertising agency beat out 6 other firms to market the new bingo operation. The marketing strategy will be regional, using a $500,000 budget to draw people from as far away as 200 miles from Duluth.
We plan to position the place right from the start as the premier high-stakes gaming facility in the upper Midwest, and to sell the entertainment and service aspects of the facility. The theme that we'll be using is Las Vegas Entertainment Lights Up Duluth, and that's really what it's going to be.
In addition to brochures, billboards, seminars for clubs, and broadcast commercials, the agency has also booked Telly Savalas, whose wife is from Duluth, to appear during the grand opening.
It doesn't look like much now, but come September the 12th, the new Fond du Luth Gaming Casino will have all the style, glitz, and glitter of a Las Vegas gaming facility. Something promoters say the new $3 million gaming casino will be unlike any other found in the Midwest. With photographer Dave Stokes, Brian Ziegler, Channel 3 News.
Unlike many of Duluth's other public parks, the Western Waterfront Trail wasn't even here just a few years ago. It had to be developed from the ground up, but it also had to be developed with an eye towards protecting a particularly sensitive environment.
It's pretty basically a relationship between a person walking along the trail and the river itself. And that's something real special.
The feeling of being surrounded by wilderness while only a few minutes from one of the city's busiest thoroughfares has made the Western Waterfront a favorite place for senior citizens outings, as well as a popular walking and jogging trail for the younger generation. Its unique geographical situation also lends itself to making an expanded Spirit Mountain a summertime place to go as well.
Well, this is it. The Western Waterfront Trail, the zoo, Spirit Mountain, they all fit together so nicely that you don't have to go out and recreate the wheel. It's again a case of taking advantage of what exists and using it, polishing it up a little bit, blowing away some of the cobwebs, and all of a sudden the light goes on and people say, the summer use.
The blacktop parking lot and flower boxes are about as commercial as the Waterfront Trail gets. All the amenities were designed to blend in with the natural surroundings, making the Western Waterfront Trail experience difficult to put into words.
The best definition is to say to you, let's take a walk down the trail and then tell me what you feel, because that's really the only way to define it. And maybe then you can't put it in words as well. But as you walk along and wind along the river, being able to be there is probably the best definition.
Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
You're adorable, you're so beautiful, you're a cutie full of charm.
Northern Photo Service processes 100,000 pictures a day. The most popular subject? No contest.
I would say definitely that it is baby pictures. We see more of those than anything else.
Most new parents enjoy taking a snapshot of the latest addition to their family, but how to make those photos truly memorable? The secret is to experiment. Professional photographer Jeff Fifield says to use a flash outside. If you're shooting inside, think about the background.
So often we plop our children on the couch and get the camera quick, and if we take a little care to lay a cover over the couch, something that's of a pastel or something solid, so that all the attention will go to that face, go to the child or their clothing too, whatever you've got that way. I think less distraction is better when you want to look at a photograph.
And he says don't be afraid to get in close to that special subject.
You got to get in close to get some of that feeling of those chubby little cheeks and everything.
Once you have that perfect shot, have it developed at a reputable processing company. That can make all the difference when it comes to quality. To assure the lifetime of your prints, keep them away from extreme humidity and temperatures.
If you're going to display it, I would say to get it framed and get it sealed when you get it framed. If you're just going to have it around the home, keep it out of the sunlight. Keep it, away from the basement where it might get damp, things like that.
It's also a good idea to hang on to your negatives and store them properly as well.
Whether you're a pointer and a shooter like me or a budding Scavullo, you can take that portrait that'll last a lifetime. Just remember the 3 Ps: priorities, practice, and a lot of patience for your baby. Michelle Lee, Channel 3 News.
Clifford Enroth graduated Hibbing High School in 1967. Within 2 years, he was fighting in the rice paddies of Vietnam. Clifford returned to the U.S. a disabled veteran. He lost both legs when an enemy mine near him exploded. Later, Clifford was awarded the Purple Heart and Bronze Star. Friends say Clifford had the drive to continue to do what he wanted to do in spite of his handicap. He used a wheelchair at home and artificial legs outdoors.
He hunted partridge. Of course, he rode, hunted. He had a 4-wheel drive, and he did deer hunting. His brother Jerry and a couple other fellows and I, we hunted deer together, and he did a lot of fishing. So he did, Clifford did what he wanted to do. He got around.
Clifford was stabbed to death last week in his secluded Wilpin house where he lived alone. No one has been arrested. Police aren't releasing much information.
There's a lot of things that we want to keep confidential here. The men are working very hard, both our department and the people of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
Clifford's friends and family don't understand the events of the last week.
Something like this to happen, you wonder why. Why to a veteran? Why to a disabled veteran? Someone that served their country with distinction and valor, and then to something like this to happen.
Clifford's friends at the VFW post in Hibbing, where he was active, say it's ironic that Clifford served on the front line in Vietnam, lost both legs there, only to return to the U.S. a hero and be murdered in the house near the town where he was born. In Hibbing, Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
Early afternoon on the dairy farm of Mike and Lisa Evans of Port Wing, Wisconsin. The Evanses recently began milking their cows 3 times a day instead of the usual 2 to keep from losing too much money. They produce 20% more milk for desperately needed cash.
It's just that things are so tight right now that there is no leeway for any mistakes.
The work is hard and often requires 12 to 18 hours effort a day. Still, the Evanses are much better off than many of their neighbors.
Well, there's I would say 14 farmers in the last 18 months have gone out of business. And it's really sad to see these farmers. I think they were doing a halfway decent job, but when ends didn't meet, they just had to sell out.
Dairy farmers in Wisconsin and elsewhere are in crisis. In the last 12 months, bankruptcies in Wisconsin's Western District rose 25%. 15% of those filing were farmers. Part of the problem is that there are too many farmers and too much milk. In the 70s, the federal government offered incentives to attract new dairy farmers to keep up with projected demand. But nearly a decade later, milk prices have dropped and exports are limited, so farmers can't sell to cover expenses. Ironically, those who got in recently or who've made improvements are the ones who hurt the most.
Unfortunately, a lot of the poorer farmers will probably survive this, and some of the better ones that have made the improvements, have tried to be more efficient, they're the ones that are going to end up out of business now.
What dairy farmers need is not more or less cooperation from the federal government, it's better cooperation. In Port Wing, Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
The bingo machine is ready, but it won't be used for about a month. The Fond du Luth Bingo Casino will open its doors September 2nd for the first of 4 pre-game sessions. But today, the press was given a sneak preview.
It's a dream come true in regards to economic development for the city as well as the reservation. Today, we're here to give you a little glimpse of some of the flash. And when the lights go on for real,
it's going to be somewhat of a blinding effect, I think, impressing a lot of people.
One area of the casino that may not be complete by opening day is the video gaming area. The Bingo Commission is trying to work out a disagreement with the Fond du Lac Reservation concerning the contract for the video gaming machines. Although the problem hasn't been resolved, the two sides say the disagreement won't affect the overall activity at the casino.
Whether there's some residual feelings or not, I don't think will interfere with our best business judgment, and that's the critical and key issue.
I'm sure the mayor of the city don't agree with everything that I say, and by the same way I don't agree with everything that he says. But we did come to an agreement to operate this facility in Duluth, and we are going to make sure that it's a success.
Plans for a downtown parking ramp near the gaming casino are still in the very early planning stages. But parking ramp or not, the Fond du Lac Gaming Casino will hold its grand opening September 12th, 13th, and 14th. Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News.
Everyone in the Northland is watching the steel industry and wondering what's going to happen next. It's no different here at the Natural Resources Research Institute, where researchers look to improve the competitiveness of Iron Range taconite, but also feel the pressure to solve a growing economic crisis.
It would be nice to have been able to say that we've started this initiative 15 years ago or 10 years ago so that we're ready in the time of distress. But that's not the case. So I'm very much concerned about this gap. You know, what do we do in the short term? Let's plan ahead for
Lalich admits his agency feels there's a sense of urgency to accelerate the development of some of the state's underutilized minerals, something that could help fill the employment gap.
At the same time, we're trying to be responsible and safe to the state and the people in the state that if you don't study your geology and something were to happen in the world, for example, South Africa, our leading producer of chrome next to Russia, would have a political upheaval, and in, say, 3 or 5 years there would be a different market. Minnesota will miss again because we frankly aren't prepared for the development of our non-ferrous minerals.
But mineral exploration is only one part of the NRRI's plan. Tonight at 10, we'll look at some others. Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
Brand new machine in here. Once we get it down to there, we use about 1 micron grit. We'll put it over.
What are we looking for? Not for anything.
It's not the legal aspects of Chippewa's fishing and hunting on public lands that they're concerned about. That's left up to the courts. What's fueled the fishing controversy are the social and economic ramifications.
All Indians don't share the same religion, but for some traditional Indian religions, yes, it is very much a part of the spiritual custom of their religion, and it's sometimes a very integral and necessary part.
The 16-member commission, made up of Indian and community representatives, came a little closer to solving racial tensions. Much of the tension gets down to cultural differences, but community residents have been worried that it might decrease tourism too.
In the Manitouche Waters area, because we're so close to the Lac de Flambeau Reservation, all the adverse publicity that would be derived from it would have a direct impact on the customers that we would have coming to our small resorts.
The Department of Natural Resources is trying to get both sides together.
The treaties' right issues has caused a lot of social conflicts between non-Indians and Indians in northern Wisconsin. And a lot has to be done to correct that problem.
After formal presentations, members individually agreed to study how Indian fishing in the future might affect tourism. Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
Now recall what I said earlier. The litigation and the negotiation.
Thank you. Air traffic controllers work an 8-hour day, 5 days a week, like most full-time employees anywhere. But their job may be a bit more important than some because they're responsible for people's lives. Anyone who has ever flown on a commercial airline has been affected by an air traffic controller. They're the people who keep the airspace organized.
I wanted to be part of the aviation industry, and it was a way for me. I saw someone do it. I went visited a tower, and I thought it looked like fun, and that's why I got involved.
Since the huge turnover of air traffic controllers in 1979, questions concerning the quality of controllers have been raised. But air traffic officials say the skies are just as safe now, if not safer, than they were before the strike.
And I would like to point out that the air traffic system has moved more planes with less delays than ever before.
Duluth International Airport staffs 13 air traffic controllers, and although they may not be as busy as those at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, they're just as qualified and equally as dedicated. Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News.
Most farmers would agree you can't raise sheep and cattle together. Between special health factors and the economics of raising and bringing animals to market, it's a risky venture. But at the Hayward Ag Research Station, they've begun a 5-year experiment to do just that.
What's a little different about this operation is that we're trying to do it and getting enough numbers and trying to do it with low inputs so that a family unit probably could make a living.
What dairy farmers have going for them is a lot of land. That is, if they've been growing their own forage or feed for dairy cattle. They also have some buildings and equipment, although barns would have to be renovated extensively, a cost many farmers can't handle now.
In many cases, the same kind of a barn that you're using for dairy cattle does not convert very easily to the beef and sheep operation. I mean, you know, the stalls and the gutters and so forth. In a beef and sheep operation, we're more looking at open sheds and maybe even housing them out in the woods.
If the problems are worked out here, though, it would provide one option for dairy farmers who feel the financial squeeze. There could be additional advantages, too.
Yes, I would have to agree that it is much easier than dairy cattle. Sure, you have long hours, but you aren't tied down 7 days a week like dairy cattle.
This is just one state effort to help dairy farmers out. Though the research will help, it won't be enough or come soon enough to help dairy farmers out. In Hayward, Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
Hibbing Electronics is the home of the NBT 1062, a private payphone product designed by Northwestern Bell Technologies. The operation is the result of deregulation, when Minnesota became the first state to allow private businesses to own and operate coin telephones in 1983.
What we have in front of us and the opportunity at hand is an excellent example of the kinds of innovation and the kinds of opportunities that are a direct result of deregulation.
Governor Perpich was on hand to observe current operations, which have created 40 jobs thus far, and more than 100 jobs expected in coming months. Regular payphones are converted by the installation of a microprocessor board that eliminates the phone company's central office by providing functions like a synthesized voice and rating calls, all done internally. Governor Perpich is pleased Northwestern Bell decided to stay in Minnesota with their project development.
And I was very, very happy when you mentioned the fact that the decision was made to do the board and what have you here in Hibbing and in Minnesota and the good old USA, because this, of course, helps us stabilize our economy. So many of our basic industries are literally being wiped out by imports coming in.
Hibbing Electronics is putting out 150 units a day, but expect to be up to 500 units a day by early fall, in a national market that officials say has tremendous potential. In Hibbing, Janet Carvin, and Channel 3 News.
Where it came from and
Councilor Richard Braun began the one-hour special meeting by saying he had no facts to support his charges that Airport Director John Grindon is the silent partner of an aviation company. The rest of the meeting was rather routine. Braun asked questions about how the airport board operates. City officials answered them. And some councilors wondered if there's a problem at the airport authority at all.
At this point, it's all innuendo. And until, Councilor Braun can actually prove something, or someone can prove something, and if that means an investigation, I don't feel like it would be appropriate for anyone to say that there's a problem.
Braun says the ball's in the court of the airport board. The He'll wait until they respond to a transcript of last night's meeting before he decides if he'll pursue his charges of a rubber stamp board and bid rigging.
I think just by the transcript alone, as the airport authority reads that and sees the concerns that were raised, I think that'll lead to a better operation.
Airport Director John Grindin says the board will carefully consider the transcript of the meeting, but he wonders why Councillor Braun chose to make his concerns public instead of approaching the board with them.
The councillor had great access to the airport authority, as great as any citizen and probably more as he is a city councillor. His wife is on the airport authority, and it would seem to me that the proper way to proceed would have been to simply bring those to our attention, not broadcast them into the media as if they were facts.
The city's airport mess still isn't resolved. Braun says there are questions he wants answered, but he'll wait to see what the airport board will do next before he decides which steps he'll take. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
Feels we should address the next.
The controversy is over games like these. The electronic video bingo games have the potential to generate up to $5 million a year for Duluth's new bingo hall. But members of the Joint Gaming Commission between the Fond du Lac Reservation and the City of Duluth were surprised to learn last night that a contract to lease 250 machines has been in effect since May 14th. And the commission was more than miffed to learn the deal was struck without their knowledge.
At no point in this contract was signed on May 14th, 1986 and witnessed, and at no point was that put on this list to us. Therefore, my statement that this has been withheld.
The contract allows the St. Paul V-Tronics Company to provide the machines for 60% of their gross receipts. The remaining 40% would be split between the Fond du Lac Band and the Bingo Commission and the City of Duluth. Commission President Nick Zuber said he didn't think that sounded like a good deal, so he started looking for a better one.
I talked to a local vendor when I heard of this contract, and I asked him, what could you do with this? He said, I could provide those machines at $75 a week, and you keep all the profits. Well, that interested me.
Fond du Lac officials said that action was inappropriate. They said Zuber had no right to step in on his own and accused him of making an under-the-table deal with the local vending company.
And if you have any charges to make, you make them publicly and you make them before this body.
I would suggest that you withdraw your comment about a conflict of interest from this discussion, proceed to something more meaningful.
Although Fond du Lac attorney Henry Buffalo withdrew his conflict of interest charge, other tribal officials wondered if the commission is planning to infringe on their role as the bingo hall's managers.
Let us manage, and we'll have a successful project here in Duluth. But if you nitpick us to death, we can't buy these type of hot dogs, we can't buy paper over here. Let us manage it. We've got a very successful business in Cloquet. That's how we sold it to the City of Duluth. We can manage. Let us do that.
Last night's meeting raised more questions than it produced answers. The Bingo Commission asked its lawyer to find out how good of a deal a contract really is, if a better deal can be found, and if so, can the contract be broken? John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
It was the kind of accidents ships and bridge operators have always been able to avoid. But last night, the wind and waves pushed the Vista Queen into the bridge, damaging her starboard quarter.
Although this is the first accident ever for the Harbor Cruises in its 26 years of business, it has prompted Coast Guard officials to investigate the possibility of tightening the rules regarding the signaling for ships to the bridge.
Right now, boaters can signal to the bridge 3 different ways: by radio, visually with a flag or a light, or with a horn. And Coast Guard officials may now require boaters to stay a specified number of feet away from the bridge until it's raised.
One of the things that contributed perhaps was that the closeness of the vessel when it had to wait to the lift span. We may consider posing some requirements as how far you can stand off from the bridge when it's not open.
Coast Guard officials will continue to investigate the accident for the rest of the week, but they say no other procedures involving boats leaving and entering the canal would have to be implemented.
The procedures for opening and closing the bridge and the communication procedures are very well set down in regulation, and they are followed very closely. There was a little miscommunication here perhaps, and we need to look at that, what caused that miscommunication.
Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News. people went to the hospital after a cruise on Lake Superior turned into near disaster. This man suffered a fractured vertebrae when the mast fell on him. The Vista Queen had just started her cruise. The ship's captain signaled to the bridge workers to lift it. They signaled back, giving the go-ahead to cruise under.
As I approached into the canal, and to make my approach, he called me back on the radio and said there'll be a slight delay due to traffic congestion on Park Point. I said no problem. At that time, it just so happens the wind and the current and the situation warranted that we got into a situation that we try to avoid.
More than 130 people were aboard the Vista Queen when she hit the bridge. Others at Canal Park saw the accident too, including Tom Jacobson.
The Vista Queen had sounded its horn, and the operator had acknowledged, but he didn't raise the bridge, and the Vista Queen started to make a wide turn, and she just got too close to the span, and you can see what happened. It took the upper deck right off.
The boat got a little bit too close to the bridge, and when he tried to turn around or put it in reverse to go back, either the currents or the wind pushed it right into the bridge.
Passengers on the top deck pushed others out of the way when they saw the starboard quarter of the ship coming down. Owners estimate the damage at more than $10,000. The Duluth Coast Guard is investigating the accident, the first accident in the 26 years of business for the harbor cruises. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
Because of its close proximity to the Duluth Zoo, the natural beauty of Fairmont Park frequently takes a back seat to the reigning monarchs of Mother Nature's wild kingdom. But the park itself is quite capable of standing on its own merits. In fact, much of the proposed 27-acre zoo expansion is designed to take advantage of tonight's best-kept secret.
Again, it's a case of not having to recreate the wheel. It's very, very easy to take that setting, as natural a beauty as it is, and just kind of expand around it. And that's kind of what Fairmont Park is.
Like so many of Duluth's other public parks, much of Fairmont was constructed by WPA workers. And even today, their quality workmanship provides the foundation for the kind of experiences Duluth is famous for.
There's a pavilion here that allows people some some comfort during those infrequent, inclement times out here. And, again, it's a case of just opening your eyes and looking around and maybe exploring a little bit. Because once you start exploring, you get around the next bend, and all of a sudden you see something that kind of makes you want to go a little bit further and a little bit further.
Once funding for the new zoo is approved, attendance is expected to grow to 150,000 visitors per year. And city officials hope many of those visits will turn into day-long experiences by making better use of Fairmont Park. Jeff Potts, Channel 3 News.
The land and climate of northern Wisconsin are best suited to growing animal feed, but farmers here increase their farm's potential substantially by turning their feed into dairy products. Researchers at the Hayward Ag Research Station, operated by the University of Wisconsin, believe that feed could also be turned into beef and lamb, and for a profit.
To put it rather simply, what we're trying to do here is to see whether we can put together an operation that a family could operate and make a living with.
The dairy crisis impacts northern Wisconsin more than the southern half, where they grow an increasing amount of corn and tobacco. Most farmers in northern Wisconsin are dairy farmers.
And when we compare this, for instance, to southern Wisconsin, we have less opportunities here. As somebody once said, their rotation down there is corn, soybeans, and Florida.
By addressing health factors that arise when cattle and sheep are combined, plus breed combinations, herd size, and time management, the researchers hope to create an option for dairy farmers.
I'd say we'll start to get information perhaps in another year. We have information now, for instance, on lambing percentages and this type of thing, but basically we won't get too much information until we put in 1 full year of operation.
This is just one state effort to help dairy farmers out. Though the research will help, it won't be enough or come soon enough to help dairy farmers out. In Hayward, Kathleen Chalikian, Channel 3 News.
2 years ago, Governor Perpich appointed Linda Johnson, Minnesota Commissioner of Human Rights. She was a college administrator from Michigan with a PhD. Commissioner Johnson then hired Walter Barwick from Maryland to be her deputy commissioner. Barwick also had a background as college administrator and a Ph.D.
Dr. Johnson says the volunteer...
Johnson and Barwick received early publicity as effective managers. Their department whittled away at the backlog of discrimination cases. But after a while, caseworkers in the Human Rights Department who had cheered Linda Johnson's arrival were quitting in frustration. In 2 years, 24 have left the department.
There became a real effort to push nothing but quantity as opposed to quality of investigations. And with that kind of concern, many of us, including myself, felt that we were unable to do justice to the investigations and the jobs that we were paid to conduct on behalf of the state.
Then, in May of this year, a legislative audit found that both Commissioner Johnson and Deputy Commissioner Barwick had been exaggerating the miles they drove their personal cars on state business. The Attorney General was asked to investigate, but most of their travel has been by air. In less than 2 years, Johnson and Barwick each have made at least 25 out-of-state trips at taxpayers' expense, a total of more than 120 days apiece out of town. They both went on 17 of those trips to places like Anchorage, Alaska, San Francisco, Washington 3 times, Chicago 4 times. Some staff members suggest the trips are nothing but junkets.
What results have you seen from all the traveling that the commissioner and deputy commissioner have done?
Nothing has come down to me.
No memos?
No memos.
No meetings with the staff to discuss any knowledge they might have picked up?
None.
No reports?
I haven't seen any.
In an interview this morning, Commissioner Johnson said that isn't how she operates.
I think that the management systems that I put into place, the resources that I bring into the state, is the manner in which they benefit from my travel. I think the positive image that I develop by the contacts that I make is what I bring to the staff.
Some of the travel records submitted by Johnson and Barwick do raise questions. For example, Commissioner Johnson's trip to Waukegan, Illinois last summer to deliver a paid speech to the Urban League. Why did Deputy Commissioner Barwick go along at state expense?
He did not go on that trip.
But their expense reports show that both went to Chicago on that same day. Waukegan is a Chicago suburb. And when Commissioner Johnson went to Chicago and then to Montego Bay in the Caribbean last August for a conference on the future of Black America, why was she gone 9 days? It was a 3-day conference.
I'm not sure that's accurate.
But again, Johnson's own travel report indicates she was gone 9 days. And what happened in Orlando, Florida in March last year? Deputy Commissioner Barwick went there for an Equal Employment Opportunity Conference. But his expense records show he didn't go until the day the conference ended. Then he stayed 2 more days and came back. Late last month, Johnson and Barwick both went to San Francisco at state expense for an Urban League conference. The I-team went along without their knowledge to see what they're accomplishing with all their travel. If San Francisco is typical, the answer is not much. Friday, July 18th, 2 days before the conference opens, Johnson and Barwick check into this hotel. It's about 5 blocks from the Moscone Center where the conference is being held. In this morning's interview, Johnson had this explanation of why she and Barwick went to San Francisco.
The Urban League is a premier race relations group. I know a lot of Urban League directors. One of my priorities is to establish linkages with individuals in civil rights agencies. So the primary purpose of going there was to renew those kinds of contacts.
On Sunday, the conference gets underway with a luncheon and some speeches. But Johnson and Barwick remain in their hotel. The speeches are all over by the time the two leave their hotel together. It's 2:45. They walk to the conference center. The 2 Minnesota human rights officials go to an area of the conference center set aside for exhibits by 200 corporations and agencies, which offer samples of their products, free snacks, and drawings for prizes like trips to London and television sets. We hired Robert Campos to stay near Johnson and Barwick as they spend 2 hours going from booth to booth.
I was often shoulder to shoulder with them, filling out, as they were filling out raffle tickets and picking up some of the public relations items that the companies were giving away. Everything from shampoos to soaps, pencils. McDonald's was handing out pencils. Goodyear was handing out erasers. They were all small items, calendars, and these all went into bags. They were signing up for a lot of raffles, and they actually won a couple of items in raffles.
What sort of items?
They won a record album, and they won a T-shirt.
Did you hear any discussion at all of human rights or minority issues?
No.
That first evening, the commissioner and her deputy attend the keynote program, a speech by the Urban League president. It is the only speech they will hear during the 4 days. Monday, second day of the conference, and it begins in earnest at 9 in the morning with a planning session and several forums on education, employment, and homelessness. Johnson and Barwick do not attend. They remain in their hotel. At noon, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development addresses the conference. Johnson and Barwick stay in their hotel and miss the speech. The afternoon meetings begin. Johnson and Barwick remain in their hotel. Not until 5 minutes till 4 do they emerge at last and go to the conference center. But not to any of the meetings. Instead, they again head for the exhibit area and again spend almost 2 hours going from booth to booth, signing up for drawings, collecting free samples, and eating free food. By now, the afternoon meetings have ended, and the conference delegates are preparing for the evening session on South Africa. Johnson and Barwick don't attend this session either. As soon as they've finished their rounds of the exhibits, they simply return to their hotel. They are still there at 8 o'clock as the day's Urban League activities end without them.